back in 92, in the streets of calling my name. Young soldier with a vision, had to learn the game. Compton raised me hard, taught me how to survive. Loyalty was currency, kept the crew alive. Moving through the blocks where the real ones dwell. Every corner had a story, every story I could tell. Respect wasn't given, had to earn every strike. Neighborhood watch, keeping enemies out of sight. Fast money, slow death, that's the code we live by. Brotherhood was sacred, never question why. Rolling in the Impala with the hydraulic slow. Sunset Boulevard, that's the only way to go. Still stand in the same place where I started. Still strong, though the weak-hearted departed. From the bottom to the top, never forgot where I'm from. West Coast legacy, look what we become. Still standing, still standing. Through the pain and the planning. Still standing, still standing. On the block where it all began. 20 years later and I'm still here grinding. Diamond in the rough, now my star is shining. Lost some good soldiers on the way up, but they memory lives on in every rhyme I spit up. Police raids and court dates couldn't break my spirit. Real recognized real and the fake ones fear it. Built an empire from the dirt and the struggle. Now I'm giving back, helping you avoid the trouble. Same streets that made me, now I walk with purpose. Teaching kids the difference between worth and worthless. Neighborhood elder with the wisdom to share. Showing love to the place that taught me how to care. From the playground to the graveyard, every step was hard, but we made it this far. Still representing who we are. Still standing in the same place where I started. Still strong though the weak-hearted departed. From the bottom to the top, never forgot where I'm from. West Coast legacy, look what we become. Still standing, still standing. Through the pain and the planning. Still standing, still standing. On the block where it all began. West Coast forever, that's my DNA. Born and raised, wouldn't have it any other way. Still standing tall when the sun goes down. King of my castle, wearing my crown. Still standing. On the block where it all began. West Coast, baby. Yeah, and check this out. You know how it goes down in these streets. Let me tell you something real quick. Yo, you think you know what's happening out here? You think you understand the way we move? You think you see the game we play? But you ain't even scratched the surface, fool. You better recognize when you step into my neighborhood. You better recognize the code we live by in the hood. You better recognize when you step into my neighborhood. You better recognize the code we live by in the hood. You wanna know about respect around here? You wanna know about the bonds we keep? You wanna know our brothers ride together? You wanna know our family runs deep? Let me break it down, let me make it clear. You don't snitch, you don't fold under pressure. You don't turn your back on your crew. You don't break the trust, that's the measure. You handle your business, you stay true. You protect what's yours with everything you got. You show love to those who show love back. You remember who was there when times were hot. And you never ever let them see you crack. You better recognize when you step into my neighborhood. You better recognize how you live by in the hood style. You better recognize like to step into my neighborhood. You better recognize how we live by in the hood.
Óyeme bien. Esto es mi barrio, aquí vivimos por el respeto. Tú no entiendes nuestra forma, pero nosotros somos directos. La lealtad es todo, hermano. Sin eso no tienes nada en estas calles peligrosas. La familia es lo que importa. You see me cruising down Outta Boulevard. You see the way I carry myself with pride. You see the homies showing love when I roll by. That's because I earned it. I didn't have to lie. I kept it 100 from day one. I never switched up, never ran. When the heat came down, I stood my ground. That's how you build respect as a man.
You better recognize when you step into my neighborhood. You better recognize the code we live by in the hood. You better recognize when you step into my neighborhood. You better recognize the code we live
That's how we do it in the LBC. Real recognize real, and that's all I need. You better recognize. Down Crenshaw, windows down, bass bumping loud. Game tight, moves right, never blending with the crowd. Got my crew beside me, loyalty runs deep in my veins. On my mind, but respect is what remains. Started from the block where the hustlers congregate. Now I'm moving weight, never hesitate to demonstrate. Trust is thin as paper in these streets I navigate. One wrong move and homies might just seal your fate. Who you trust when the chips are down? Who you trust when you're not around? Who you trust in this wicked town? Who you trust when the heat comes down? Brothers switch sides quicker than the California weather. Promises get broken, bonds don't last forever. Keep my circle small, family over everything. Fake friends disappear when trouble starts to sting. Money talks loud, but blood runs much thicker. Seen too many fall for that fast cash flicker. Neighborhood rules, gotta play them smart. Keep your mouth shut, steal your heart. Who you trust when the chips are down? Who you trust when you're not around? Who you trust in this wicked town? Who you trust when the heat comes down? Listen up, young blood, let me break it down for you real clear. In these streets of LA, paranoia breeds the fear. Every handshake questionable, every smile suspect. Gotta watch your back, cause betrayal's what you least expect. I've seen homies turn to enemies for a stack of green. Witness loyalty crumble faster than you ever seen. But the real ones stay solid when the pressure gets intense. When the feds come knocking, they don't break under suspense. My day one's still beside me through the thick and thin. Brother, since the sandbox, that's where trust begins. We came up from nothing, now we run these blocks. Respect earned in blood, now bought with rocks. So when you're choosing sides, better think it through. Cause in this game of life, trust is all that's true. Keep your enemies close, but your real friends closer. In this concrete jungle, trusting matters most. Who you trust when the chips are down? Who you trust when you're not around? Who you trust in this wicked town? Who you trust when the heat comes down? Palm trees swaying as the sun goes low. Only trust yourself, that's all you need to know. West Coast living, but the game stays cold. Trust is everything, more precious than gold.
Listen up, homie, let me break it down. I see you walking, but you ain't from this town. You think you hard, but you soft as hell. Real recognize real, and not the tell. Real recognize real, that's the code we live by. Real recognize real, separate truth from the lie. Real recognize real, you can't fake what we are. Real recognize real, earn these motherfucking scars. Been on these blocks since I was 12. Learned the game, had to teach myself. Talk that shit, but you never been through what we been through, what we had to do. Real recognize real when the heat come down. Real recognize real, who gon' hold it down. Real recognize real in the dead of night. Real recognize real, who's ready to fight. Real recognize real, that's all we know. Real recognize real, that's how we roll. Real recognize real, from the heart and the soul. Real recognize real. You see me posted on the corner every day, grinding hard in the same damn way. While you pretend I keep it 100. Real recognize real, that's how I run it. Real recognize real when the money get tight. Real recognize real, who gon' ride through the night. Real recognize real, loyalty tested. Real recognize real, fake shit gets rejected. I don't need to front, don't need to lie. Been authentic since the day I could cry. Streets taught me what I need to know. Real recognize real, that's how we grow. Real recognize real in times of war. Real recognize real, what we fighting for. Real recognize real when the chips are down. Real recognize real, runs this fucking town. Real recognize real, that's all we know. Real recognize real, that's how we roll. Real recognize real, from the heart of the soul. Real recognize real. Yo, let me tell you about this life I chose. Every single day another door that closed. But real recognize real when you stay true to the game, to the streets, to the crew that's with you. Real recognize real when the pressure get heavy. Real recognize real, keep your trigger finger steady. Real recognize real in the way that you move. Real recognize real, got nothing to prove. I seen cats switch up when the heat got turned. Lessons from the block, that's how knowledge get earned. Real recognize real when your back's to the wall. Real recognize real, who gon' answer the call. Real recognize real in the way that you speak. Real recognize real, authenticity's what we seek. Real recognize real when the struggle get real. Real recognize real, wounds that never heal, but we keep pushing, never folding the stress. Real recognize real, that's what separate the best from the rest of these actors trying to play their part. Real recognize real, comes straight from the heart. Real recognize real in the dead of winter. Real recognize real, truth cuts like a splinter. Real recognize real when the sun go down. Real recognize real, we the kings of this town. Real recognize real, that's all we know. Real recognize real, that's how we